A Black executive perspective now presents Need to Know with the award-winning hyphenated Dr. Nsenga Burton. Dr. Burton, what do we need to know?
Good afternoon and welcome to Need to Know with Dr. Nsenga Burton. I am she. Thank you for joining me today. What am I going to talk to you about today? I'm going to call him that man like Elizabeth Booker does, that man who is in the White House and his shadow vice president / president are smashing and grabbing. That's what my friend Dr. Stephanie Evans calls it, smashing and grabbing all of the resources of the government. And I find that fascinating since they have no regard for the government. If the government is so horrible and terrible, then why are they going after all of the resources, including the human resources that the government has to offer? And I think, when you are trying to save money, some of this has to happen, right? But there's usually a plan in place, not a just burn and slaughter everything in its path, so that you can get as much money as possible to give to these tech oligarchs that you have promised $500 billion to further advance and develop AI. So I just think it's really interesting that they have no regard for any of the people who have been working. Many of them are their supporters, which I find also interesting. So it's like, do you really hate the government, or do you hate government when, the opposing party is in office? Because a lot of your supporters are now unemployed because you have literally been slashing jobs. I am hearing that there's some mental illness happening and that someone has, something has happened. It hasn't been reported yet, so I have not reported it yet. But things that are happening around the mental illness space because of the harassment and bullying that is coming from POTUS and his shadow president. But the thing I want to talk about today, which I think is really important, is the lack of regard for order. This obsession with confusion. And we know, whether you read Project 2025 or, hey, just paid attention to the first time that this person was in office. Confusion and chaos is the order of the day. There is no order. There's no thought behind anything. There is no intention other than to cause harm, wreak havoc, and to impose whatever will you want through bullying and harassment. That's pretty much what it is. That is what he does. That is how he rules. That is why he has declared bankruptcy 7 times, because it is not possible to rule or lord over people who are used to democratic processes. Even when people are laid off, even when people are let go because you're riding the ship or you're tightening the belt, if you will, there is usually a plan in place such that they have some notice. They understand that it is coming. They understand why it is coming, even if they don't agree with it. But the slash and burn is just not working. For example, why on earth would you fire 6,700 IRS employees during tax season? All of the agencies, government agencies that exist, all of the government agencies that exist, right? So now it looks like, ooh, now we know why you infiltrated the Department of Treasury, other than to take over the money. Also, so that you can now hold on to people's tax returns and their refunds and live off of the interest that will accrue when you don't pay it back in a reasonable amount of time. All right. So I'm really tired of government entities. You talk about being tired of government having these interest-free loans on the backs of American taxpayers. And I have no idea what that has to do with what this man promised you all, right? Because we knew he was lying based on his prior performance from 2016, where he had to be made by Congress to give y'all $600 after you were stuck inside for 2 years because of his failure to avoid an avoidable pandemic, right? An avoidable illness that killed millions of people and has ramifications that we don't even know of to this day. All the people with long COVID and all of that. So, sometimes you can say, I don't know, like I even get in 2016 where you're like, just give him a chance. Let's see what happens. I mean, I don't really get it, but I can see how someone can make that logical conclusion. Like, we don't know. Like, yeah, we've seen all this, we know all this or whatever, but let's see what he does in this role. You all knew in 2016 how this man moved. When he left office, we fired him. Do you all recall? We fired him because he had done such a horrible job. And because he did such a horrible job, now that he's back in, he has a shadow president who has a terrible record. Look at X versus Twitter. Look at Tesla. Look at the stock prices right now. Look at StockX, which is why they want this $500 billion, because they're running out of money to play around with. And all these people rolling around in these, what I call research cars, these Teslas that are research based and having all these problems. That's who you put in charge of our country. That's who you put in charge of our money. That's who you put in charge of your jobs, which you no longer have. Now, I'm an empath, so I don't want anybody to lose their jobs. Even white supremacists, please stay employed so you can leave me the hell alone. Stay over there wherever you are. Stay over there. Keep your job. But the way that people are going about it, even if you do feel like you have to right the ship, you have to save money, you have to be innovative and think about other ways of doing or conducting government, this approach is not working. It's not working for the people that you're targeting, and it is not working for the people who voted you in. So if you need another indicator that that man, as Elizabeth Booker says, I love when she says it. I can't say it like her, but that man and his shadow president, here's Exhibit Z, that they're not ready for prime time. And you have let this man fail upward again, both of them. They just fail upward because they have money, they're rich, and we are all paying the price for it. So I don't want to hear shit, excuse my language, about you not getting your refund. I don't want to hear nothing about you being unemployed. I don't want to hear nothing about your MAGA relatives having to move in with you because they lost their jobs and their homes. This is what you voted for. This is what you wanted. And when people try to tell you, and I have a healthy dose of concern when it comes to the government. Anybody who knows me is like, I see life through a very dark lens. So it's beyond party to me. It's like, of all the Republicans you could have put in office, you chose this one. And there's some decent Republicans out there. Y'all won't let them talk because they're not MAGA Republicans. You won't let them lead because they're not MAGA Republicans. But there are some decent Republicans out there in the universe. So next time, I mean, if you want to, like Democrats not doing it for you, I'm going to get a Democrat. We got to find a Republican. Find one who doesn't have a track record of slashing and burning and destruction and chaos and confusion. Find one where you can go to sleep at night and wake up happy the next morning most of the time. That's all I got for you. I wish you a wonderful day. Choose happiness, choose joy. And thank you for tuning in to Need to Know with Nsenga Burton, Dr. Nsenga Burton. And make sure you join a Black Executive Perspective podcast next week, which is always fantastic and gives you information you need to know.
A Black Executive Perspective.